Welcome to the Daily Plunge. We're in the Epistle to the Romans, chapter 1, starting at verse 16, going through verse 28. Now, it starts off saying, I'm not embarrassed by the gospel. Well, what is the gospel? And he says, it is the power of God to save through faith, that we must rely upon God, not our own efforts, not our bargaining to get a discount on sin, but only through the work of God in the cross. And what happens is that chapter 1, 2, and half of 3 is all about the law of God, how God turns us over to our sin. The law condemns us, but God, who is completely righteous, then redeems us by his work on the cross in Jesus Christ. And that's what he says. He says, for the gospel is the righteousness of God revealed from top to bottom, from beginning to end. It is the law and the gospel and the new life in Christ. That is, again, based on his righteousness, not our own. And that is for all people. For the righteous shall live by faith, as he quotes from Habakkuk. Now, he says the wrath of God is revealed, the righteousness of God is revealed against all the ungodliness and wickedness and really the hatred and rejection of God. And so God's wrath is the outworking of his righteousness, because God cannot abide with this sin. And he talks about how God has been plainly revealed to us, and it takes more faith to be an atheist and to not believe in God the Creator. It takes more faith to be an atheist and to believe in the evolutionary monkey rolling dice nonsense of evolution, right? Than it does to believe in God, who is the Creator. And God has not only shown who he is through the creation, but also because the moral law is written upon our hearts. We know what is right and wrong. Verse 21, although they knew God, they wouldn't worship him, they wouldn't glorify him, they wouldn't give thanks to him. I mean, they just deny God the honor that's due to him because he's God, and instead they become futile in their thinking. And that's a great phrase. How do we become just pointless in what we think? Because we're all constantly running around on a hamster wheel of human foolishness, valuing the things that have no value. And he says how we exchange the glory of God for created things, for the things of this world, for the powers of this world, and we worship, idols that are in the images of human beings and various creatures. Verse 24, God turns them over because they refuse to honor God. God lets them just live into their sin. That's the power of the law. And so he gives them over to the sinful desires of their hearts, and they degrade themselves and one another, and they exchange the truth about God. They exchange truth about everything for a lie. Lies that basically where they worship the created and themselves. And so verses 26 to 27, he speaks about the shameful lust that he gives them over to. Now, this is in many ways meant to be more an illustration. I mean, Paul is making a very specific point. He's making a theological point, but this is also a point that he's trying to say. We could have just easily talked about how God gives us over to the greed and the gluttonous desires of our heart. But the thing is that with sexual sin, it really is something much deeper, right? And one of the words that Paul uses is a Greek word that basically translates as male marriage bed. And he makes up this word specifically to make this point that this male marriage bed is a committed relationship. In all of this, he's talking about how we are breaking away from God's call to be married as man and wife, right? To live for our own selfish desires, whether they're heterosexual, homosexual, whatever. We are rebelling. Thanks, friends. Have a blessed day.